Welcome to another episode of Agent versus Lender. And today we have Rod Moser from Salt Lake City. Rod has been a broker and CEO of multiple different agencies, real estate agencies. He's ranked top 1% in this county of selling real estate. And he's also been a real estate coach for some of the top teams across the country and in Canada. So Rod, tell us a little bit about, just give us a little bit about your story.
Yeah, well, so I started in the real estate game actually doing mortgages. Did mortgages for about 10 years, 12 years, and learned after a little while that I didn't enjoy that side as much. I wasn't as good at that as I would like to be. And I was moving back. I'd spent several years in Oklahoma City. I was moving back to Utah where I grew up, and was deciding to make some changes. And I got into the game of real estate in Cache Valley is actually where I started. Moved into a community, didn't know anybody. There were a lot of real estate agents that were very established, had been selling for years and years in the community. So trying to crack into that market was a little bit difficult. But after 3 years in, I was the #1 residential real estate agent in Cache Valley, and was selling about 100 homes a year and doing really well. Interestingly enough, is after I got up and I was carrying about 50 to 60 listings at a time, and woke up and the market had started to soften. We're about 2010, 2011, and we'd gone through a really difficult time. And I woke up one day and had 5 voicemails, and they were all sellers, and they were all very frustrated because their houses were still in the market and they hadn't sold. And I had a friend call me up and gave me an opportunity. And a week later, I signed over every listing I had to my business partner. I jumped on a plane and I went to Hawaii and spent a year in Hawaii, completely out of real estate. That's another story. But after a little while, you run out of money because Hawaii is really expensive, and I had to come back. So I took a job as the CEO of the Keller Williams office in Sugar House here in Salt Lake. Did that for about 4 years. Had a lot of success. We took the office from about 95 agents to almost 200 agents. Generated a profit every month for 12 months, which was the first time that had ever happened in that office. And then I got an opportunity to leave and go to a little larger company here in town. I started managing the Century 21 Everest office. Did that for a year, and then I started to coach real estate agents with Tom Ferry. And so did that for about 5 years, and then decided once again to make a little change. I get bored fast and make a little change, and we opened a small brokerage ourselves, my wife and I, and we've been selling ever since.
So that it's really funny when you say, you did all these big giant things, then you scale back down and you go open a small office. And so tell me, what's the mindset as to, most people are trying to climb that ladder, and you climbed that ladder and you decided that's maybe not what you wanted to do. So tell me, what's the mindset and why you decided to do that?
Yeah, great question. And what I discovered after, doing all those things is that at the end of the day, we all go to work to take care of the people that matter most in our world, right? And for me, that's my wife and my children. And when I was pushing to be important to people that didn't know me and I didn't know them and didn't really care, and we didn't break bread together at night or anything like that, when I started to realize that the people that mattered most to me were being sacrificed so that I could be important in the real estate world, I made a conscious decision to scale back. We love to travel. We want to maintain a great lifestyle. I want to make sure my kids have the best that I can possibly give them. And I realized that I didn't need to sell 1,000 houses a year to do that. I didn't need to manage the biggest office or that I made a conscious effort to sell just enough houses to maintain the lifestyle and to start really enjoying the reason that I go to work and the people that matter most in my world.
That's awesome. And for those of you that don't know Rod, he says he has enough he sells enough just to make his lifestyle okay, but he's no slacker. He he still sells a lot of houses. So,
Well, thank you, man. Yeah. And, you know, truthfully, people need great real estate agents. And I feel
oh,
like
totally.
if you can do the business well and you know how to help people maximize the sales price and really make that very challenging time in a lot of people's lives a little bit smoother, if you're good at it, you kind of owe people, you know, you owe them to be out and be active and to continue to do what you do best for them.
So you just said something just a little bit ago that kind of piqued my interest. You moved from out of state back to Cache Valley, probably over in the Loganish area,
Yep.
and you didn't know anybody. And it was just a few short years later that like you're crushing it and you're top in that county. So how do you go from knowing zero? I mean, you don't have like a sphere of influence there to really call on, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
You go from zero, not knowing anybody, to crushing it in just a few short years. How do you do that?
Great question. And I had some amazing mentors, and I've studied sales my entire life. But when we got back, when I first got started, I didn't know anybody, and it was hard because I didn't know who to even talk to. They didn't, put a sign out in front of their house and say, "Hey, I'm ready to sell my house and come over and talk to me." I did find out they did do that. It was a for sale by owner sign, and that's kind of how we got started. And but I started to put a lot of effort in. In fact, I used to carry a bunch of little plastic beads in my right pocket when I'd go to work in the morning. And I would go into the office, and every time I had a conversation with someone about real estate, I would transfer one of those beads from my right pocket to my left pocket. And I committed to myself that I wouldn't stop working until I transferred all those beads over. And some days that took a little longer to do. I mean, I was driving to the gas station and filling up my car, and a poor sucker that pulled up next to me. Hi, my name is Rod. I'm a local real estate agent. Have you had any thoughts of buying or selling? You know what I mean? And so I was doing that all the time. And after about a year, it was interesting because there was a buddy in the office, another real estate agent. We went out to lunch one afternoon, walked into the restaurant, and all of a sudden all these people were, "Hey Rod, how are you doing? Hey, it's good to see you." And we sat down and got our food, and he says, "I got to tell you," he goes, "I've lived in this town my entire life." He goes, "I played football, at Logan High, and I felt like I know everybody. You've been here how long?" And I said, "About a year." And he goes, "You know more people than I do." And it was because I just talked to more people than he did at the time, and let go of that. People can sometimes reject you colorful ways, and you just have to, understand that they don't know you, they don't hate you, they're just telling you they're not interested right now, and get out of your head a little bit. But that's how that started. And then,
That's cool.
yeah, and then I met a great mentor. Her name was Jet Youngblood. And I remember we went to a Cash Rich Association of Realtors. I apologize, man. Sometimes I'm long-winded. I'll be quick.
No, it's
We
okay.
sat down at lunch, and my phone kept ringing, and it was people that wanted to show houses, and my clients calling, and I was being kind of rude. I was answering the phone, and it was really uncomfortable. We got all done with the lunch, and Jet goes, "That was really uneducated. I can't believe you kept answering the phone." And I said, "Well, Jet, you're super busy. You sell 50, 60 houses a year, and your phone didn't ring." She goes, "I'll teach you the business of real estate, but here's the deal. You take me to lunch on your dime, and I'll explain to you how to run a business of real estate instead of being a self-employed salesperson." So anyways, long story short, I went to work with Jet. She had a little book called the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. It was written by Gary Keller at the time,
Yep.
and that was kind of her model. And that got me started on that path. So
that's an awesome story because I kind of gone through that path myself as being a self-employed. There's a difference between running a business and being a self-employed salesperson. I mean, there's a total mind shift, and people just don't realize. When I was doing 4 or 5 loans a month and doing, somewhere around $1 million a month, it was like I could do that. But once we started really gaining some momentum, and now we're doing 10 times that, there's no way that I could do that without a team behind me.
Yeah.
And so I had to shift from salesperson to business person. And it's actually a big shift, and it took me a little while to make that shift.
Yeah, for sure. We were talking earlier about the cost of running a business and making sure there's profit margins. And, I used to talk to a lot of agents and you'd ask them, how did you do this year? Oh, I made, $120,000. And deep down, they really believed they made $120,000. In fact, they lived a lifestyle as if they made $120,000. What they didn't take into consideration is business expenses and licensing costs and taxes
Right.
and all of those kinds of things. And so, understanding that, I think that, if I could start over and begin something, I think it would be understanding how to create a budget to be able to run a business on, as opposed to just, collecting your commissions and assuming that that's how much money you were making.
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of agents, and mortgage people as well.
Sure. Yeah.
We're really in the same business, so it's really, we are so similar that's scary.
Yeah.
Most people go, well, I'm going to throw this money at this, and I hope that something comes back out of it. Man, hope is a terrible business model, because I used to run on hope.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Terrible.
Well, you really look at it. You get to keep about 30 to 40% of your gross commission income. The rest of it's going to go to taxes, going to go to business expenses, and into savings that you don't have when you're in real estate for retirement. And if you're not budgeting the right way, I think you can get yourself into trouble, right?
Right. Yep. Totally. So in this business, especially right now, we were talking earlier about there's so many real estate agents, and I'm going to let you take this because you're going to be better at this. There's so many real estate agents. How do you set yourself apart?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, we were talking about that. There in Utah right now, we have just under 30,000 real estate agents actively licensed in the state of Utah. And to get a real estate license, it's a really simple process. It's a low barrier of entry. It's a 120-hour course, right? After you take the course, you pass a multiple choice test at 70% or better. And a lot of people could probably guess and pass. You pay a token fee to the state, which is a couple of $1,000, and they turn you loose on society to help people sell and buy their biggest asset. It's no wonder so many people have had kind of a bad experience with real estate agents, and why sometimes they get kind of a bad rap. Almost everybody I talk to knows somebody who has a real estate license, whether it's a family member, whether it's a friend. They know somebody who dabbles in real estate. And so, they default and maybe hire them instead of interviewing. So one of my favorite questions is, let me just ask you, if you didn't know somebody, or if you didn't have a family member that sold, what criteria would you use to ensure that the agent you hire is the right agent for selling your home and not just somebody that's carrying a real estate license? I pulled the stats up. I've been pulling stats every year since I got, or every Monday since I got into the game of real estate. And right now in Salt Lake County, we have 3,588 homes on the market. In the last 30 days, 1,600 of those homes sold. So when you're looking at that, that means that we had almost 2,000 families hire a real estate agent and fail to sell their home, even in this kind of a market where we have a low inventory, a tremendous demand. We're still, more than half are not finding a buyer and are carrying that through. The average days on market for those 1,600 homes that sold last month, 30 days. So it's taking an average of 30 days, even with the light inventory.
Wow.
So when you start to look at those kinds of things, it's a challenge. And what a lot of people have done is they say, well, what does a real estate agent do? Well, they put my home on the MLS. They get it out on several websites like Zillow or Realtor.com. They fill out some paperwork and they sit back and wait for somebody to come along and buy the home, and they get paid a lot of money. So there for a while, real estate agents spend all their time when they go to an appointment telling people about all the cool things they did. Well, we hire a professional photographer. We have a social media campaign. We're going to put your home on thousands of different websites so that every buyer on the planet knows it's available for sale. We've got somebody that's going to come in and help you to stage your home. Our signs are the prettiest. My company is number one. I'm number one. They kind of go through that process about everything that they do. Well, guess what? All of us basically do the same thing. right? If you're not having a professional photographer go out right now and you're taking the pictures with your phone, you're probably doing your client a disservice and it's going to cost them some money. If you're not getting exposure on the websites, which it's mostly automated anymore, the MLS does it for you. So, all of us basically do the same thing. So if we're all going to do the same thing, then if I'm a consumer, what I would do is I would just go find the cheapest possible person to hire and I would hire them. What's interesting is this. Have you ever noticed that two houses built at about the same time in the same neighborhood with the same basic floor plan sometimes sell for different prices?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. What do you think the reason for that is?
Probably, probably a better salesperson. It's either
Yeah.
a better salesperson, better marketing, it's better something because the house isn't better.
Yeah.
It's something outside of the house itself.
There has to be something that differentiates, and it's not the house. If the house is the same condition, same year built, same all of that stuff, then it probably was the real estate agent or some factor of what it is that they did. So when I go to a presentation, I just tell them that, hey, I'm going to save you some time. We do the same thing that everybody else does. There's two little things that we do differently, and those two little things make all the difference in the world, right? And I'd be happy to share those with you. I don't want to bore you, but I can maybe point out a couple of things that might make a difference, right? Um, one of the greatest marketing campaigns I've seen in a long, long time is a new company in our community called Homey. It's brilliant, right? They figured out a way to be a full service brokerage by providing professional photographers and the signs and getting it on the MLS and making sure that it's marketed everywhere. And all of that is happening. But what's interesting is when I ran the numbers and I just compared it with a large Keller Williams office here in town because they do a lot of sales, they sold on average for 3.08% less on a price per square foot basis than a full service agent did. So the marketing campaign was brilliant. We're going to save you thousands and thousands of dollars in commissions, and they do. But the other side of the story is if I sell your home for thousands and thousands less, I'm still saving you commissions, but at the end of the day, you walk away with a smaller paycheck. Did you really win?
Yeah.
And that's where I think the education needs to come in is real estate agents need to make sure that they understand how to sell a property, how to market a property for the highest possible price.
Man, if there's any real estate, I've had multiple real estate agents talk to me about that company.
Sure. Yeah. And it's a great company, right? It's a
Yeah,
brilliant
nothing.
company. They do something really, really well. And
Yeah,
it's
they're totally disrupting the business right now.
no question.
Talk to me about how do you overcome and how do we win against them? You just gave them the answer.
Well,
It's
that's
totally
true. And we can support all of that with statistics and it's easy to see, and the other thing is, of all the homes that they list, 45% of them sell, 55% expire or cancel, which in and of itself is telling, right? Would you hire a company if you had less than a 50% chance of selling your home? A lot of that stuff is there, but the interesting thing, and again, I think it's important for people to interview the agents that they're going to hire and make sure that they ask them some deeper questions, right? So an example, we recently listed a home on the east side. I could find comps for the home because it was a 4,500 square foot home, and in an area where quite a few sold, and I could find comps, and the highest comp that I could find was about 820 to 825,000, right? The absorption rate in the area was 2, which means on average, in this price range and in this location, there were 2 homes that sold every single month. So 2 buyers per month in the price range and location. So that was my expectation. There was another agent who listed a home 2 houses away, same year built, same builder, same quality construction, same neighborhood. And his sign went up one day and then it went down the same day. And my client had taken a picture of the sign because he wanted me to call and figure out what the comps were and everything else for as we were selling his home. And I called him and he said, yeah, we're in the low 700s. Well, my first thought was, oh my gosh, did I misprice this property by $100,000, right? So He said, yeah, low sevens. There hasn't been a house in the neighborhood that sold over 700,000. My parents live in the neighborhood. My client didn't want this to go on the MLS. And luckily enough, we found a buyer before we went on the MLS. So it's not going to be there. And he goes, I talked to your owners and I know what they're wanting to sell their home for, and there's no way it's going to happen. So I said, okay. We put the house on the market the very next week. My clients had to get a hotel room because they couldn't go home. They had so many showings for 2 straight days from sunup till sundown. We ended up getting 8 offers on the property, including 3 cash offers. You know, way over asking price, waiving appraisal, waiving due diligence, all that kind of stuff. We just closed on that house at $870,000.
Wow.
And we had an agent who went to school 120 hours, passed his test, knew people in the neighborhood, knew the area really well, and he underpriced a home by almost $150,000.
Wow.
That's the kind of stuff that can happen if you don't interview, and whether it's a family member, a friend, somebody that they mean well. They want to do a good job for you, but if they don't know how, it can cost you tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I've seen that on the mortgage side as well, where somebody will start shopping and they find somebody that gives them a break on a couple $100 break on their closing costs, or they say, hey, I'm going to discount something, whether it's a rate or a fee, but and they come back later and go, Ron, that several $100 just was not worth
Oh,
what
sure.
we just went through. So
Yeah,
it's really important to get people that are professional and they know what they're doing and they have some experience, because that experience really matters, especially when you're dealing with properties that are some of the biggest investments you're going to make in your entire life. So
oh, sure.
you can't
Yeah.
mess around with stuff like that.
There's an interesting, talking about these things, and I appreciate you allowing me to kind of share some of this because I think it's important. There's an article, it's one of my favorite articles. In fact, I bring it with me when I go on listing appointments, and it was written by Forbes magazine. You can Google it. And the title of the article is, Are Real Estate Agents Colluding to Rip You Off? And the article goes on to talk about how real estate homes that are listed at a discounted commission, 5% or 4% or whatever. I mean, commissions can be anything, but typically a lower priced commission, that they take longer to sell and they sell for less money. And I'm like, well, that's interesting because it's all legit. It follows the law of supply and demand. See, I can't control the supply of homes out there. I can't, keep a neighbor from listing their home. But if I can artificially increase the demand on your home and the supply stays the same, what does that do to your value? Right? So
Yeah.
how do I artificially increase the demand on your property? Well, I'll share with you my secrets, right? So here it is. You offer a slightly higher buyer agent commission than what everybody else is offering. We know that there are 30,000 agents in Utah. In Salt Lake County, we sold a grand total of 18,289 homes in the last 365 days. So if we've got all these agents selling that many homes, the average agent is selling maybe 3 or 4 sides a year, maybe 3 or 4 houses a year, which means that every time they have a buyer in their car, that buyer on average represents 25 to 33% of their annual income from real estate. So if I have 5 homes out there, and by the way, when you sold as many homes as we have, you realize pretty quick that the homes are kind of the same, right? They have the same number of bedrooms, they have a roof, they have a foundation. The difference is cosmetic. Maybe one has new carpet or one has granite countertops, but at the end of the day, a house is a house. So people are making a 30-year decision based on the color of carpet or the color of paint when you can change just about anything you'd like in the home, right? So,
Yeah, right.
so if you've got a buyer and they're looking at 7 different homes in the market, and 4 of them are offering 2.5% as a buyer agent commission, and 2 of them are offering 3%, and one's offering 3.5% as a real estate agent, which of those homes would you be the most excited to sell?
If you're a buyer's agent,
Yeah.
well, you're gonna be, all things being equal, you're gonna go to the one that's gonna pay you a little more,
It's
right?
going to pay you a little bit more. See, here's what happens. Every agent.
Which is a really cool marketing trick, because that is going to increase
It artificially increases the demand, right? I mean,
totally.
I can't control the supply. That's out of my control. What I can
Right.
control is the demand. And if I can artificially increase the demand, I'm going to be able to put more money in your pocket. It's counterintuitive. People think that paying a lower commission saves them money, but what it does is it actually shrinks the demand. Agents are going to do everything they can to not sell your home and to sell somebody else's that's offering them a little bit more money. I learned a long time ago that sales is nothing more than a transference of feeling. When I can get an agent who is a trusted advisor in most cases excited about a home, that excitement oftentimes translates to those buyers that they're representing. Every agent with a buyer in their car is going to do everything in their power to get their clients through your front door. The more people I get through your front door, the more money I'm going to be able to get you at the end of the day. The other thing that I found out later that was a nice bonus is that even agents that have a client in the price range, but not necessarily looking in your area, they're going to do everything they can. Hey, there's a home in Draper. I know you're looking in Sandy, but there's a home in Draper that I think matches everything you're looking for. Would you mind if I throw it on the list today? All of a sudden, we're increasing the demand. The other thing is 1 out of 4 transactions that go under contract in our state right now are failing to get to the closing table, 1 out of 4. A lot of times the failure comes, whether it's maybe a pre-approval that wasn't vetted properly, or more likely there was an inspection issue that came up. Well, what's interesting is when we're negotiating, we usually have a listing agent trying to get the highest price for the home, a buyer's agent trying to get the lowest price for the home, and we're in a little bit of a tug of war until we can come to terms. What I found out is that when you're offering a slightly higher buyer agent commission, that buyer's agent comes around and starts negotiating on your side of the table and helping to convince their clients that your house is the best one and probably deserves to gain a little bit higher offer. And when it comes to inspections, the agent is doing everything they can to keep that deal together, because if it fails, they've got to go back and they're going to sell their client another home where they're going to make less money. So it's more likely to stay under contract. It's more likely to get more showings and more activity, and it's more likely to sell at a higher price. We sell homes at a higher price per square foot than our competition because we do things a little bit different, and it is counterintuitive, but paying a higher commission to the buyer's agent will actually net you more money.
Man, I tell you, it's like, man, my head just is exploded. That is really profound. And I hope that those that are listening take note, because that's a really incredible marketing tactic that probably few, if any, are taking advantage of.
The last part of the equation, and I hope this doesn't go too long. You'll have to edit this. But
no, you're okay.
There's been one seller in every community in the United States that has sold more homes as an owner than any other seller. And it sounds like a trick question. Any guesses as to who that owner might be?
No, no idea.
It's a bank. Short sales, foreclosures.
Okay.
Banks have sold more homes on the real estate market than any other seller. Now, here's what's interesting. When a bank goes to market with a foreclosure or short sale property, they have an option when they go to market the property. They can price the property above market value to leave room for negotiations. They can price it at market value, but unless the buyer that's going to buy the home is in the room with us, we're all guessing at market value. Or they can price it below market value. Now, when a bank takes a property back as a short sale or foreclosure, what strategy do they use?
Well, I know that the banks are still looking at market value. They're not selling it for, I mean, there was a time a long time ago that you could get deals on foreclosures, but that time is long past. So they're just looking at market value. They're not selling for less. Is that what you
We
get?
used to represent Wells Fargo, one of the largest banks in the area, with a lot of their REO properties, their real estate foreclosures and short sales. Here's what's interesting. Everybody always wants to look for short sales and foreclosures because they're always priced below market value. Now, in all of my years, and I've now been around for quite a while, in all of my years, I've never met a bank in the business of losing money. Have you?
Nope.
So why would they
I used to work for a bank, so
they're not in that game. So
not
why
at
would
all.
they intentionally, if they have more experience than anybody else selling real estate, why would they intentionally price a property below market value?
If you've ever been to an auction, that's exactly why they start low, is because you get in this feeding frenzy and prices go up.
You nailed it, right? I call it the eBay strategy. What's interesting is people used to say, well, they're trying to get rid of their inventory. Well, have you ever been through a short sale process? How long did it take to get the approval? I know you have, Ron, and I have. It's not a day, it's typically months. And there was a period where it took 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
It actually takes 5 minutes, right? There's a guy at the bank and he looks at the numbers and he says yes or no.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So why do they drag it out that long and price it below? And it's exactly that. People that are emotionally involved in a bidding war will always pay more for a product than they would if that product were on a shelf by itself with a price tag on it. The best strategy is to price your property slightly below market value to artificially increase the demand. And here's the other thing. Say you have a house worth $500,000 in the market today, and you decide to price it at 510 or 515 to leave room for negotiations, but you're willing to come down to 500. When buyers are out looking at homes, they're looking at 7 homes again, all priced at 515,000. Well, if your house is worth 500 and priced at 515 and everything else is worth 515, which one is the worst house of everything they're looking at? Yours. But let's say you have a $500,000 house and you price it at 485 and it's really worth 500. The buyers are out there looking at $485,000 homes and yours is the best valued home. Well, if we have an absorption rate of 5, if we've got 5 buyers in the price range and in location, and you're the best valued home of all 5 of those homes on the market, how many offers do you think you might see?
If you're the best value, you're going to be,
you could potentially see all 5.
Yeah.
And again, people that are emotionally involved in a bidding war will always pay more for a product than they would if that product were on a shelf by itself with a price tag on it. The best thing I can do for you as your real estate agent, as somebody who understands marketing and understands how to maximize your profit, is to do 2 simple things. Offer a slightly higher buyer agent commission to drive the demand up, and to price your home slightly below market value. The best thing you can do is to underprice your home and offer an abundance of commission, and you'll walk away with a bigger paycheck. At the end of the day, the question that people ask me all the time that they probably shouldn't ask is, what are you charging commissions? The question they should ask is, how can you help me to walk away with the biggest possible check? I don't care what you're going to get paid. I want to know how I can walk away with a bigger check.
Yep. That's really the question for all of us. And which most homeowners don't think, because they don't think of asking, because they equate more commission as less money in their pocket, and they just don't understand the business aspect.
There's always a fear, right? An underlying fear. Am I going to lose money? Am I going to underprice my home and only get one offer? There's always that. And here's the other thing that's interesting, and this is why it's important to interview. You could hire an agent who uses the exact same strategies that I do, but if they don't know how to communicate with the agents on the other side and help people through a multiple offer process, oftentimes they lose the multiple offers because people don't want to be in a bidding war and they'll walk away. So having somebody who understands how to communicate with the other agents, who is professional and understands what they're going through in the process and how to help them help their clients to go through this a little bit better. If you can communicate that through the other side, through experience, because you've done it enough, you're going to help to maximize your profits. At the end of the day, maximize the sales price for your clients. And when you can do that, you need to be as actively involved in real estate as you can, because people need your help.
I don't even know what to say. I mean,
hopefully it helps, right? Hopefully some of this stuff helps.
I hope people are taking notes when they listen to this episode, because there's a lot that, I mean, you just packed in a whole coaching session. You packed in multiple coaching sessions in this short podcast. So hopefully you're taking notes.
Well, I appreciate you having me on today, man. I hopefully I didn't talk too much and you got some stuff out of it.
Loved it. We appreciate you being here. How can people get hold of you?
The easiest way is through my cell phone, and I carry it with me at 435-232-0427. If you have any questions, you can always email me, and my email is rod@utahpre.com for forgive me. Rod at utahpre.com. We do have a small office, and we're always looking for, like-minded agents. And so if you're, thinking about making a change, we'd love to hear from you and see if we might be a great fit moving forward.
Awesome. Well, you'd be a good one to mentor from, because you not only talk the talk, but you walk the walk. So
well, it's fun, man. I mean, at the end of the day, I truly love what I do for a living. This isn't work for me when I get to wake up and do what I enjoy and help people at a high level. It doesn't feel like work anymore. And I'm just grateful for the opportunity to do it, to be honest. So
that's awesome. Thanks so much for being with us today, Rod. And that'll bring to close another episode of Agent versus Lender. And if you ever have any questions about the lending side, please feel free to reach out to me or anyone on my team. The best way to reach us is at 801-628-7667. And look forward to another episode of Agent versus Lender.